Oh hey, I didn't see you there. I was admiring my little tower of failure. You see, I'm a glutton for failed products. I start every single morning with a nice hearty plate of Colgate lasagna. That's not part of the joke anymore, this actually happened.
The Nintendo Wii U. It's everyone's favorite little disappointment, aside from yourself, of course. 13.5 million units, that's it. It did better than the Dreamcast, but it still got beat by influenza. Nintendo has been making it abundantly clear that they want to forget about the Wii U by porting a bunch of Wii U games to Nintendo Switch, some of which keeping the U in the title. They've ported Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, New Super Mario Bros. U, Mario Kart 8. On top of all of the rest of the first-party and third-party offerings, there aren't a ton of reasons to go back to the Wii U nowadays if you have a Switch, but there are some Wii U exclusives that are never gonna come to the Switch for one reason or another. I could easily fill a list of around 50 Wii U games that are never gonna come to the Switch, but for the purposes of having an easily digestible video, I'm only gonna show off 5 of them today. Maybe we can revisit this topic in the future. Now, before we begin, I'm not saying these games couldn't work on the Switch with a few workarounds. I'm just saying that it's incredibly unlikely, if likely at all, that Nintendo's gonna port these to the Switch. But enough blabbering, let's begin with number 5. Back when the Wii U launched, Nintendo decided to bundle the Deluxe Edition consoles with a little game called Nintendo Land, similar to how they did Wii Sports with the original Wii. Similarly to Wii Sports, Nintendo Land is a little mini-game romp, but unlike Wii Sports, it's not sport-based, it's based off of other Nintendo properties. Everything has representation, from Mario to Zelda to Metroid to even Pikmin. The biggest problem that a lot of people seem to have with Nintendo Land is that it doesn't offer a lot of content for single players. It does have its own single-player dedicated games, which you could turn into a multiplayer game just by passing the controller back and forth Atari style. But if you're not playing in a party atmosphere, or at least with one other person, you'll find that this game's content runs kinda dry kinda fast. It's not a bad game, it does its job exceptionally well for a pack-in title. And what I mean by that is it shows the full functionality of the Nintendo Wii U's tablet controller. The game can't function without it, and because of that, it couldn't run on something like the Switch. So many of these minigames require you to look up and down from the tablet controller to the TV that it might be able to run on a traditional console with a ton of extra programming, but at that point, why not just make a new Mario Party? Why would you port Nintendo Land over to the Switch? I'd love to see a sequel to Nintendo Land because I love the aesthetic of this game, but gameplay-wise, I don't think that this would function on anything but the Wii U. NES Remix Pack is a minigame selection based off of Nintendo properties. This sounds like I'm reading the previous entry's script. In all seriousness, Nintendo does this sort of thing a lot. They like to cash in on their older properties because they know it invokes nostalgia in a lot of people. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Now, what exactly was the NES Remix, and why did it need to be packed? Well, I guess I'll answer your questions one at a time. What is NES Remix? Well, have you ever played WarioWare? Yes, they took the bite-sized gameplay of the WarioWare games and squeezed in a bunch of sprites from the NES games, sometimes mixing them together. The gameplay is solid and the minigames are really fun. Now, why did this need to be packed? Because there's 2 different games included, NES Remix 1 and NES Remix 2. NES Remix 1 has minigames based off of Balloon Fight, Baseball, Clue Clue Land, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, Excite Bike Golf, Ice Climber, Mario Bros. Pinball, Super Mario Bros., Tennis, The Legend of Zelda, Urban Champion, and Wrecking Crew. While NES Remix 2 had Dr. Mario, Ice Hockey, Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Metroid, NES Open Tournament Golf, Punch-Out, Super Mario The Lost Levels, Super Mario 2, Super Mario 3, Wario's Woods, and Zelda 2. While NES Remix 1 was basically just the minigames and nothing else, NES Remix 2 included some awesome bonus features, such as Super Luigi Brothers, where you play the entirety of Super Mario Bros. 1, but backwards. It's cute. And if you have the save data from NES Remix 1 and 2 both present on the Wii U, NES Remix 2 gives you access to the Nintendo World Championships remix. As you may have guessed by the title, this is a remixed version of the Nintendo World Championship from 1990. Only instead of Rad Racer and Tetris, you get to play Super Mario Bros. 3 and Dr. Mario. I do think it's kind of lame that all 3 of these are Mario games, when back in the 90s, I think the whole point of the Nintendo World Championships was to show that gamers are good at a variety of games and not just Mario Brothers. But it's a totally superfluous addition that nobody needs to play. It's just here as a little throwback for the fans, and because of that, I appreciate it a lot. Now, hardware-wise and gameplay-wise, there's no reason this couldn't run on the Nintendo Switch. There isn't anything special happening in NES Remix that you couldn't mimic on the Switch, but one of the most important things about NES Remix, especially the second one, were its online leaderboards. These, of course, took advantage of Miiverse, and you unlock a shit ton of Miiverse stamps while playing NES Remix Pack. Unfortunately, due to Miiverse shutting down, this would cease to function on the Nintendo Switch. And is there really a point to releasing a remix of the Nintendo World Championships where you can't show people that you are a potential world champion, I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity. Because of that, I unfortunately don't see this coming to the Switch anytime soon. I hope I'm proven wrong because again, there's nothing here that couldn't technically run on the hardware. It's all basically NES games. But as for right now, it seems like it's forever destined to be stranded on the Wii U. And the 3DS, but to be fair, I just learned the 3DS version existed this afternoon, so I'm keeping this part of the script in, fuck you. It's time to talk about Meme Run. Meme Run is an endless running game created by Ninja Pig Studios. For the longest time, I thought this was the only thing they've ever made and that they were just a shitpost company, but no, they're a legitimate game developer. Not that you'd be able to tell by looking at this. You take control of Trollface and you run to the right. Gameplay-wise, it kind of resembles something made on Flash 20 years ago. That's not a compliment. The game proudly features both stolen sound effects and artwork, as well as visual effects that can cause literal epileptic seizures, hence why I'm just showing you gamepad footage and I'm not recording the actual game itself. But why won't this come to the Nintendo Switch? Take a fucking guess. All jokes aside, the game was actually removed due to a DMCA request to Nintendo. Yeah, not by Nintendo, to Nintendo. It tasted their own medicine. The guy that sent the DMCA request was a guy by the name of Wine, and if you don't recognize that, he's the guy that originally made the Trollface back in 2008. Holy shit. Am I cheating by putting this game in the list? Probably, but it is technically a game that's forever going to be abandoned on the Wii U because they can't port it to anything else without risking a lawsuit by Wine. Supposedly there's a sequel out there, but I can't find anything about it on Ninja Pig's website. But hey, if Nintendo will greenlight something as blatantly plagiaristic and shitty as Meme Run, maybe someone can try porting one of those Elsa Frozen dress-up games to the Nintendo Switch. Wii Sports Club tears me. On one hand, it is the definitive version of the first Wii Sports graphically, and it had online play back in the day, which was awesome, at least for the 14 people who owned a Wii U in North America. But gameplay-wise, the use of the Wii U's tablet controller was sort of shoehorned in, and when you're playing golf, it feels a little uncomfortable. Mind you, when you're playing something like bowling, the Wii U tablet isn't used at all, which is awesome because you can just play Wii Sports Bowling the same way that you always have. And to be fair, golf is the only game where the Wii U tablet doesn't really feel natural. It feels fine in all the other minigames that utilize it. In my opinion, it's the best version of the first Wii Sports, but I would go back and play Wii Sports Resort any day over Wii Sports Club. There's just so much more variety and interesting things to do, and Woohoo Island's a billion times more lively than these menus. Like NES Remix, there's technically nothing stopping Nintendo from porting Wii Sports Club, or really any of the other Wii Sports titles, to the Nintendo Switch. At the end of the day, the Joy-Cons are basically more advanced versions of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. I have absolutely no idea why Nintendo doesn't port any of these titles. It probably wouldn't take a lot of resources and it would sell like hotcakes. Nintendo would also please the fans quite easily. If you do own a Wii U and you really like Wii Sports, this isn't a bad title to pick up, providing that you have $75 in your pocket, because this is one of the pricier Wii U games. Devil's Third is one of the blandest video games I've ever played in my entire life. A lot of people say this game is terrible. I am one of them. It's not the worst game I've ever played, far from it. It's fully playable. I didn't have a terrible time playing this, but I'd rather be playing literally any other game. The controls are tricky, the gunplay isn't satisfying, and the frame rate sometimes dips into the single digits. It's not a great experience, and I can tell this wasn't really meant for the Wii U. You know what's kind of shocking though? This game was published by Nintendo. I think they were trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice, like how they did with Bayonetta 2. Now that's a great game, and it's also not a Wii U exclusive. Go buy it on the Switch. But the Wii U's architecture was so different, I don't think the development team could stick the landing. Now, where have I heard that one before? I am certain Nintendo just wants to wipe their hands of Devil's Third and never wants to re-release it, and that's exactly why it will never come to the Switch. If you like mediocre third-person shooters, you don't mind low frame rates, and you have an extra kidney to sell, I'd recommend picking it up because Jesus fucking Christ.
Overall, I just wanted this video to serve as a bit of a story, that even the underdog like the Wii U can perform well, so you can too. Get out there and sell 14 million of yourself. That doesn't sound right. Nope, don't do that.